About 9 o'clock. Moolah. Hey, yo, wake up. Moolah. Yo, is this thing on? Yo, where's Wallace? Where's Wallace? Radio Network. Rush Danja. It's the Rush Danja Show. Let's go. Well, who's that dude that keep it poppin' 9 to 12 and keeps it hoppin' hot as hell? Yeah, that's me. And who's the dude that's with the crew that's making moves? Or is it true that his name is Rush? Yeah, that's me. Who else could do it like he do it? Pumping music, talking stupid to the people. Rush. Yeah, that's me. Now who's the one that wears the crown or who will never put it down? Reppin' it for Shot-Town. Yeah, that's me. Hey yo, you've now just tuned into the Rush Danja Show. Gon' let it ride, 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 ride. And we got the hottest in music and topics. We gon' let it ride, 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 ride. Hey yo, tell somebody, call your mama. We gon' let it ride, 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 ride. Cause the turn up is real at the Rush Radio Network. You just tuned into the Rush Danja Show. Make sure you run by our website. That is www.rushradioinc.com. That's www.rushradioinc.com. Dial 914-219-0884 and press 1. Yo, it's your man Rush Danja. We are live. This is Behind the Bar. Not Behind the Bars, but we got Behind the Bars coming up in a little... I'm having a complete brain freeze. Let me sit down. This your man, Rush Danja. You tuned into Smoke and Mirrors, man. We about to get it cracking today. We about to talk about toxic relationships. We about to really get it going. I'm waiting on the beautiful soul Kitten Richardson to call in tonight. If y'all want to get into this conversation, if y'all want to be a part of this conversation and y'all want to talk this ish with me, all you have to do is dial 516-418-5637. That's 516-518-4637. Once you do that, just press 1 and we'll definitely get you right in on the line. This is your man, Rush Danja. We're about to really get it cracking. I want to know what y'all feel about this. Maybe upset a few people, talking about, toxic relationships can get a little crazy. Everybody's not happy about talking about their relationships and their past and dealing with stuff. But we're going to see how that works out tonight. You understand what I'm saying? So, y'all know what I do. I always keep some hot clips online. And tonight ain't no different. We're going to go right into the show. And I'm going to play a couple of these little clips. I want to know what y'all think about it. Once I get through playing these clips, y'all can leave comments in the comment section below. Make sure that you follow us on Facebook. If you're listening to us on Facebook via our live stream watching this show, do me a quick favor. Like this page. Make sure you like our page. We're asking you to just really support the page. And all we're asking you really to do is click a button. Click a button just so that you know when we're on and when we're not on. So definitely we appreciate each and every listener who's tuned in every week after week after week. Shout out to my whole entire staff, to each person that has supported the movement. Been so many people that have supported the movement. Crazy, and just really pushed us forward, going forward. I see my girl Miss Brown is already online. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and get into my first clip of the night, and I'll be right back in a few minutes. Let me know what y'all think about this. Let's get it. And this poem is a true story.
I gave you everything and it still wasn't enough. It was never enough. You made me feel like I was nothing. Made me believe that I was difficult to love. And like a fool, I kept trying. I kept trying till it became too much. I got in so deep that I lost who I was. I knew it was toxic. I knew it wasn't right. But no matter how bad things got, I couldn't help but try. I told myself it would be different this time. I just couldn't give up. Constantly battling over whether this is love or lust. Because if it's love, then why was it so messed up? I would treat myself like nothing. Yet to you, I gave so much. And then you go and break my heart. Tell me that you're sorry and that this is a fresh start. And like a fool, I'd wait. Wait for the day you'd make another mistake. A part of me wants to speak up, but I hesitate. It's like you're controlling me, you've infected my brain. How do I escape when you become part of my DNA? Even when you're gone, I'm still the one left with all the pain. He said he's sorry. He told me he didn't mean it and that he's going to change. And I choose to believe him when he says he won't hurt me again. I'm not expecting you to understand. Go ahead, judge me. But if I lose him, I'll have nobody. Do you get that? Who wants to live a life with it alone and empty? I need him just as much as he needs me. In some sick twist of fate, he completes me. That's why it works. We just keep going till one of us inevitably gets hurt. So yeah, I choose to stay. Go ahead and call me weak. I'm not expecting you to understand. Just know that leaving someone, it's not that easy. He's gotten into my mind, and without him I'm paralyzed. To the point where I force myself to believe him every time he apologizes, even though I know it's all lies. Every waking moment I cry. I've gotten used to it. It doesn't hurt so much anymore. I've become numb to it. I've become sore. And in some sick, twisted way, he's my only cure. What can I say? I'm incredibly flawed. Love isn't like what you see on TV. This is what it's like. This is my reality. It's not as magical as they portray it in a Disney movie. It's a lot of pain and sacrifice. You just keep pushing until you bleed.
Yo, that was pretty deep, man. That was pretty deep. We're going to talk about it, man. Like, how often and how many times in your life have you given so much to somebody that it completely drained you? You weren't the same person anymore. You weren't the person that you were when you first got into the situation. I think that happens a lot of times in relationships. I think a lot of times we meet people, we have a certain idea of where we want to go with the situation, where we want to go in life with particular people, and it does not go that way, and we end up adapting our lifestyle to something that we should not be adapting our lifestyle to. I want to get y'all opinions on that. I'm going to get a little deep into the show. I got a few more clips today. I'm going to ride through a few clips until we get all of our callers in. But definitely, if you want to get in on this conversation, I see my girl Mary Brown out there. If you want to call in and talk to me today, call into the station. We have an open discussion today about toxic relationships. And we're not just talking about male and female relationships. We're talking about toxic relationships in your family, toxic relationships amongst your friends and coworkers. So we're going to talk about all that today. Yo, you're listening to Smoke and Mirrors. This is your man, Rush Danja.
Mentally, you punished me. Emotionally, you scarred me. And now all that's left of me, you want to control. You tell me that you're there for me, but then you callously pull away from me. These selfish actions hurt me more than you know. Your love, I've always desired. It's your kiss I've always wanted. Your touch can put out my fire, but it's your love that causes my pain. Would it kill you to acknowledge me, to take the time to care for me? If you look deep inside of me, you'll see my pain is for real. Acknowledge that you've damaged me. Take responsibility. Apologize and realize it's not always about you. It's your love I've always desired. It's your kiss I've always wanted. Your touch can put out my fire, but it's your love that causes my pain.
Hello everyone. Today I want to talk about toxic friends, how to recognize them and how to deal with them. As John Rohn says, you are the average of the 5 people you hang around with most. So this means that you need to be careful who you hang around with because you become what they are. A study in a women's magazine found that 84% of women have toxic friends. In my experience, I'd say that the reason women keep these toxic friends and have them is because they're afraid of being alone, of being friendless, and more concerned about what society thinks of them rather than how they feel. So I'm going to describe 4 of the types of toxic friends you can have, and then afterwards tell you how you can deal with them. So the most well known is an energy vampire. This is the sort of friend who drains you. It's always about them. It's always me. This happened to me, that happened to me. And when you try to talk about yourself, the friend just doesn't have time, doesn't want to know, has got something to do. And basically, once you finish dealing with them, once you finish having the phone call, finish having the meeting, you feel as though the life has been drained out of you, literally. You just feel exhausted. And then you realise that you haven't talked about yourself, it's mostly been talking about this person. So that's the first one. It's the type that has, but just not told you, doesn't listen to them. The second type is the victim type. This is the type who always says, oh no, nothing turns out well for me, everything's bad for me, I've got so much bad luck. And then they spill it out onto you as well and start saying, you're the same as me, you've also got bad luck, everything goes badly for you too. Even if something good happens for you and you try and be happy about it, the friend doesn't have time to make you feel that perhaps it's not as good as I thought it was, or I think it is. As the saying goes, misery likes usually they'll put you down, and then when you perhaps say anything or look surprised, they'll say, oh no, it's not just you, it's me too, we're both like this, we're both useless, we're both lazy, or whatever it may be. So that's the second type, the victim type. The next one is the envious one, and that's the most complex, I'd say, of all of them, because the envious type wants to be friends with you at first because they admire you, they like something about you, probably everything about you, and wish they could be like you. So they want to hang around you, they want to be with you, and after a while you start noticing that they start copying you, they start thinking of things to say about you that aren't true, like home truths that are not true but make them feel better about themselves, and it's usually something that's not very nice. This is the manipulative type because they're usually quite delusional about themselves. So they'll make themselves sound really good at this, they'll give themselves skills that they haven't got just to show off and almost to compete with you because they think you're such a wonderful person, but obviously they would never say that to you because they're envious of you, they want to be like you. You're most likely to meet this type in, say, a work environment or an environment where it's competition, or it's perceived as an environment where there could be competition. That's where you're most likely to meet this type. And the worst thing about this type is they have absolutely no empathy for you because they want to be you. So they don't want you on this earth, they want to be in your place. So they have no empathy towards you, whether you're upset or you want this or you want that.
That is very, very deep.
And the third type is what I call the I'm too busy to meet you, always the last moment type. So this is the selfish type that wants you around them when they need something from you, whether that's your company or money or an extra person at their birthday party, anything that's to their advantage. But when you call them and then invite them out or ask them to do something for you, they always seem to have something really pressing to do that they just can't put on hold. They just have to do whatever it is rather than what you've asked them to do. So there are other types of toxic people, but those are the 4 that I think are the most obvious and the most commonly met. I'd say that if you don't have boundaries, these toxic type of people can sense it, and then they'll then see how much they can get away with. They'll try and take advantage of you and see how much of it you can take. So they'll demand more and more until you break or you weaken. So having a toxic friend is like cradling a snake to your breast and hoping that you can heat it and heal it. When it does get healed and it does get warm, who's the first person it bites? You, because you're the one who's clutching it and trying to help it. So it's obviously not a good idea. That's the same thing with a toxic friend. It's not a good idea. So I'll tell you 2 ways to deal with them. The first one is obviously to sit down as adults and try and have a talk with the person. Don't say, I don't like this about you, I don't like that about you. Give examples of the behaviour that you don't like. So you can say, I didn't like it in this instance when you did that. or when you said this, it's not true about me, so I actually would prefer if you didn't say that sort of thing about me. Now, if they are a good friend, they will listen to you and give you their opinion. And then you might be able to come to a compromise where they'll agree not to do it again, and perhaps even mention things that you're doing that they don't like. And then you can both agree not to do that to each other. If they are a toxic friend, they most likely won't want to listen to you. So they'll either start crying or look really hurt, or say, how could you think I would think that about you, or say that about you in that way, and try and put the guilt onto you, as in you've done something wrong, not them. So with that type of toxic person, it's up to you as to when you let go, because they're not going to change. You can think, okay, I'll give her a chance this time. She's cried and she must be sorry. Next time she won't do it. I can guarantee you he or she will do it. So it's up to you to decide where your boundaries are. I would advise perhaps to give the person one chance and then see if they do it again. If they do it again, then you need to just get rid of them. Don't keep giving them chances, because obviously they're now pushing you to see how far they can what they can get away with. That doesn't work. So you have to get rid of them. If it's someone that you can't get rid of, say a family member or colleague, or if you're living with your boyfriend or your girlfriend and you can't just move out straight away, but you've realised that they're toxic to you, then the good thing to do is to give yourself this amount of time. So I will do this. For example, I'm going to give myself a long-term strategy. In 6 months' time, I'm going to move out of here, find another job. I'll give myself a few months to find another job. So you need to have a strategy. In this case, you can't just cut the person off, because you need something from them usually. So you might think at the time, I just want to go, I just want to leave it. But I would say that's not a good idea, because then you're basically putting yourself at a disadvantage because of this toxic friend. And maybe that's what they want. So you need to think long term, and then just think of a way that you can slowly wean yourself off the person. Especially if it's a family member. My opinion is that you should try times when it's impossible and you just can't be. Rather than cutting yourself off completely, it's better to see that person in small doses. Explain to them what you don't like. If they don't listen, obviously they're your family, they most likely won't listen. So see them in small doses. And that way you're not completely cutting yourself off, but you're giving yourself space to think. I'd say the most important thing of all is to make sure that you're doing activities that strengthen you in both mind and body, and that you're keeping healthy and eating healthy foods, so that you're not losing sleep and getting overly stressed. For example, if I get stressed, I like to go to the gym, or I'll go up to the mountains for a walk. I do something where I can be either by myself or with someone who isn't toxic, and just try and relax and enjoy myself. And then I'll find that afterwards I can then go back to the situation feeling refreshed, feeling stronger, and feeling like a new person who can deal with the situation. So I'd say for definite, you need to think of ways where you can give yourself some peace. And finally, and most importantly of all, you need to ask yourself why you're allowing these type of people into your life. And I shall speak to you all next week. Bye!
Tell y'all what stood out to me at this. When she spoke about people envying you, and some people that get around you initially when they are around you, it's all good. They patting you on the back, but I found it very interesting that she said something along the lines of some people are, they're jealous of you. And they actually want to be you, and they think higher of you than maybe you even think of yourself. And they want to be you. That is very mind challenging. When you think about it, I want to know if anybody has ever experienced that. If y'all online right now, if you're watching the show, if you just want to, give your input, call into the show. I want to hear about toxic friends tonight. If you have experienced a toxic relationship, whether it was a relationship that you were in, male, female, whether it was a relationship, like I said, whether it was friendships, whether it was a work-related relationship, or business relationship. Let me know if you have experienced toxic relationships and some other signs to look for toxic relationships. Very, very interesting. This is very interesting. I really can't wait for Soul Kitten Richardson to call in and give her a spiritual analysis of this situation, like I'm pretty sure that she will do. But in the process of that, I was, doing a little research and listening to a lot of stuff. So tonight, until we get all our callers on, some of these people are actual psychiatrists, psychologists, shall we say. What are we talking about tonight? We're talking about people that really just don't mean you no damn good. Yeah. I think that's just really the bottom line of tonight's conversation is people that really don't mean you no good. If you experienced that or you'd like to share your story tonight, hey, the lines are wide open. 516-418-5667. 418-5667. That. So make sure that you tune in. It's going to be a great show tonight. Let's get it cracking.
It's really funny to be introduced as a fun, intense, but fun topic. So I want to start out by telling you a story. So Joe is walking down the street one morning, and all of a sudden, crash! Glass is raining down on the couch. Oh my God. He compresses it and he rushes back home. And by the time he gets home, the blood is dry and the pain in his head is subsiding, still a little bit there, but enough that he forgets it. I mean, he's tough, he forgets about it for 25 years. 25 years. And then he starts having these horrendous headaches and vertigo, and he's feeling horrible. And he can't work. He has to go to the doctor. And so he goes to the doctor, and the doctor examines him, and he brings him back into his office, and he says, "So, Joe, when did it happen?" "When did what happen?" "When did you get shot?" He says, "Shot?" He says, "Joe, you have a bullet in your head." And believe it or not, there are many stories in their head that we're walking around not even aware of. And the doctor does surgery to remove the bullet. There's a little scar left, but wow, he's back to functioning. He's back in the world. And so why am I telling you about Joe? Along the way, he could have removed that bullet and had a much fuller life. And it's the same thing with toxic friendships. If you know the signs along the way, you can intervene earlier and not have to suffer the results of being in a bad relationship. And how do I know this? Well, because I goofed. I was in a crazy relationship, and I do anything to keep them, particularly if you're codependent, like I just discovered I was. And so let me tell you how this all started. I live in New Hampshire, and unless you have babies or little kids, it's hard to make friends. And I meet this woman, and I've been starving for a friendship. And we had this connection. It was amazing. Like our eyes lit up. We were in a friend man's. It was amazing. And we decided that we were going to hang out together, and we had so much fun. We liked to and then things started to change. Now, what happens in the beginning is that there's chemistry. There's good chemistry, and there's not so good chemistry, right? Now, if you have bad chemistry, it can blow up in your face. But you don't know at the beginning whether it is good chemistry or bad chemistry. And you have to have an open heart to allow yourself to find out and figure it out. Let me tell you one other thing about friendships. There is research that shows that we are more likely to live longer and healthier lives if we have good friends. And if we have a health challenge, there's research that shows, contrary to what you would think, more than with a spouse, having a good friend helps us heal and faster. And so when you find a friend, you want to hold on to them. And so here's what happened. All of a sudden, we had established that we were BFFs, and all of a sudden she started telling me about her other best friend that she was going swimming with. Your other best friend? Huh. Okay, kind of hurt me a little bit, a little shot. And then she said, you know, you really shouldn't, and she started criticizing me, unsolicited. And then she'd say, you really have to change that. Again, unsolicited. And then we would have crazy amounts of talk time where I was beginning to step back because she told me I had to change, so I put on my therapy cap and I thought, okay, I'll take care of her. And I would listen. And then when she was done telling me this whole thing that was bothering her, she'd say, okay, gotta go. And there I was, not telling her about who I was anymore, stepping back, stepping back. I was walking on eggshells. You know what it's like to walk on eggshells? You crush them, right? They're done. You can't have a relationship walking on eggshells. And my self-worth would be high when she was in a good mood, and then it would drop down when she was in a bad mood. And I was beginning to get really OCD, like, oh my God, should I call her? Is she gonna call me? And when you get that involved and that addicted, there's something wrong. That's a sign there's something wrong. But did I intervene with myself? No. And so my whole self-worth was vacillating, and I was feeling sick, headaches. I was stressed out. I mean, here I am working 16 hours a day, but for half of them, I was thinking about what's going on in this relationship until finally, the last blow. She calls me one day, I'm 10 minutes in front of giving a webinar to coaches that I supervise, and she says, you know what? You haven't changed. We're done. Click. She hangs up. Like, what? And I start texting her. I have to go into the supervision. Texting her, no answer. And I realize it's done. And I told you how important friendship is for our longevity, for our happiness, for our quality of life. Do you realize there are no programs that teach you how to be a friend counselor or a friend therapist? There's marriage therapy, there's family therapy, there's individual therapy, there's executive leadership coaching. But friendship, which is so important, there's no program for that. Like, how crazy is that? And so I ran that webinar kind of like robotically, and I said, what am I going to do? If you say, oh, my friend just dumped me, you know what people will say to you? It's just a friend, get over it. Get over it? My heart was broken. I go, okay, what would I do? What would I do for someone coming to me? First thing I would do is I'd say, let yourself feel what you feel. You don't want to take it in and hold on to it so it becomes a boil that's going to burst on you. And, you know, we make ourselves sick with sadness, right, and anger. So I was going up and down the stairs, going up and down the stairs, going up and down the stairs. And I was screaming. I was so angry and outraged. And then I was crying. Like, how did this happen? She's my best friend. And at one point, I was so upset, I just sat down. I collapsed onto the stair and I sobbed. And then I said to myself, you know, she's a poopy head. Well, yeah. I was a poopy head too. You got to figure this out so this doesn't happen again. And I did the one thing I do well. I started writing. I figured if I put my feelings down and my thoughts down about it, I'd begin to figure it out. And as I did that, things became clearer and clearer, and I started seeing how I contributed. And then one morning, I got up, I'm getting ready to go out, and I looked in the mirror, and I said, you know what? I'm going to be your best friend. And the other me, looking back at me, went, really? And I said, said, yeah, what do you want to do today? And I started doing things with myself that I wanted to do. We went out to dinner, we went to the movies. We were having fun, me and me. And as I was giving to myself in this way, I felt love myself more. And the thing happens, I was loving myself more. Other people were coming to me. I was my own best friend, and therefore I had plenty of other love for other people. It wasn't desperate with one person. It was the most amazing thing, and now I have tons of friends, and they're all wonderful, and there's no desperation. And so, one of the things that I want you to know is that when I talk about this, people come lining up and say, you know, that happened to me, you know, that happened to me, you know, that happened to me. Really? And then I started asking them, when did that happen? 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago? They still have the bullet in their head that they haven't extracted? And so I'm sure people listening to this, because I've heard it from so many people, either have a toxic friendship or they've lived one in the past and they still have some pain about it. And so I'd invite you to let that out. And, you know, they say, the best friends are two equals, whole people. There's no such thing. In fact, what I invite you to do is to find somebody that you really, really like and love who's flawed. Two flawed people who can appreciate each other and even appreciate the flaw. Make great friends. And so a really good friend is a good egg that's slightly cracked. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to know what y'all thought about that. You know, find you a flawed friend. And that's not something that you would normally think of doing. You normally don't think I'm going to find somebody that's flawed to be my friend. We usually tend to find people that we think sort of have it together. So I don't know. I'm sort of all over the place with this particular one because I don't know how I should feel about that particular video that we just listened to, because for the simple fact, she said so much stuff that hit home and so much stuff that was true. She said having a toxic friend is like begging a snake to bite you or something along those lines. Like, that's crazy. My question is this to toxic relationships. Most people that grow up in families that have abuse in it tend to date in relationships that are abusive. People that say that they don't like alcoholics usually end up having alcoholism in their relationship, or they become toxic themselves. Personally, I don't want to be nothing like my mama. I don't want to be nothing like my daddy. But as you grew up, the things that you said you did not like about them, of evaluating who we allow around us. I think we allow around us at times. We trust too easily. We give of ourselves too much because I did a video last night and we talked about being either selfish or selfless. And I think it sort of piggybacks into this conversation that we're talking about right now, because a selfish person is the selfish part, is the toxic person in the relationship. If, in my opinion, I may be wrong. If y'all feel differently, call into the station and we'll talk about it. But personally, it's like usually the person that you give your most to ends up being toxic to you. And I think at some point we have to start putting responsibility on ourselves because we put so much of our stock into somebody that's toxic. They don't make us make the decisions that we do anything. So the decisions that we make towards the toxic relationships that we in are pretty much our own. So how do you deal? I see my girl Brown Heaven out there. Brown Heaven, please call into the show. I would love to talk to you tonight. So when you're dealing with toxic relationships, I think there has to be a retraining of your own mind before you go off putting all the blame on the person that you allow to be toxic to you. And I like the way I'll just phrase that. You allow people to be toxic to you. The earlier clip that we listened to, the lady said something along the lines, and I don't know if I agree with that 100%. I understand her logic when she says when you realize that you're in a toxic relationship, so you may ease out of that relationship. I don't know about that. Let's just say that the toxic relationship is exactly at a relationship. Okay, man, female, or nowadays, whatever and whatever. They get together, and you realize that this person is crazy. You realize that this woman likes to fight all the time. You realize that this man likes to fight. You realize that he's a alcoholic, or she don't like to come home. Him or her are constantly hoeing. So you already recognize what's going on. At some point, especially in physical relationships, I get the hell out of there as soon as possible. If you know that you're in a relationship that is completely toxic, that is bad for your health, and it might take your life, I think that you need to get out of that situation immediately. That's not a situation that you want to sit back and take 6 months on and figure out how you want to get out of that situation. I do understand you may not know where you're going. You may not know where you're living at that moment. I see my girl Tasha out there. But at the same time, if it's that toxic, you have to make a decision that you want to live. Now, you might have to do some strategizing and some planning, but I don't see sitting around 6 months with somebody that's beating your ass. I don't see that. Because what happens when that one day within that 6 months, it crosses the line and this man kills you or this woman kills you? Because ladies, let's keep it 100. A lot of females, I had to think about how I was going to phrase this with the females, women, and lady thing. A lot of women, females, shall I say, are not very ladylike. A lot of men portray to be hard when they really not hard. I like that from the first piece that we listened to too, when they said something about people portray themselves to be something that they're really not. So they want to create a facade. They want you to see something that they are not. That's very interesting because usually 9 times out of 10, I see we got a caller 270-390. Who's this calling in? What's going on, baby? You hear the topic tonight. We're talking about toxic relationships. What's your thoughts?
Toxic relationships
Yes.
is just that, toxic. Some people derive off of toxic relationships because of maybe their childhood or the way that they probably were raised. Some people feel like if he is not beating on me, then he doesn't love me. Or it could be if she's not fussing. Some guys like a fiery woman. Me personally, I laying down your surroundings, whether you have children or even it's just weighing you down to where one of you guys is going to end up dead or in prison. But some people thrive. Relationship, you're not going anywhere. You constantly bouncing back and forth off of each other's pain and issues and deadly poison that you're throwing out there.
215-248. Who is this calling in?
You already know. It's Soul. What's up, Russ?
What's going on?
Hey, Soul!
I know we're about to turn up now. I got my kitty cat on the line. Go ahead and give me my kitty call. Let me get my kitty call in there.
Meow.
Yes, baby. Well,
Oh my God!
Hey, Brown.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, sis, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing, Kitty Pie?
Amazing.
We already into this one tonight. We're talking about toxic relationships. If you're just tuning in, please tag somebody in this conversation, because usually when we talk like this, you know, and start the middle of the show, getting towards the middle of the show, I start to act an ass a little bit, because I begin to just speak the way I feel, and because I think at this particular point in time, with a show like Smoke and Mirrors, you don't use a name like that. It's almost like Fire and Ice. You know what I mean? It's one of them things that you gotta throw in there, and you gotta deal with real reality real quick. Like you can't waste a lot of time doing it. I want to love one. Oh, I've seen that one. Okie dokie. This one is called 10 Differences Between Good Friends and Toxic Friends. Yeah. We're going to talk about it. You're listening to Smoke and Mirrors with your host, Rush Danja, and the beautiful soul, Kitten Richardson, and we have the lady that introduced me to the radio personality. 10 Differences Between Good Friends and Toxic Friends. We'll be right back. I like that little crazy music.
We all know the phrase, a friend in need is a friend indeed. But did you know the difference between good friends and toxic friends? Well, we all have that one friend who's bad-tempered, a little jealous, and somewhat conceited. Do you think he or she is a true friend? We got 10 major differences between good friends and her. And don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, because it's important for us. Number 1, good friends celebrate your success. They're really happy with your promotion at work, your new relationships, or even your new shiny car. They'll be the first to call you and say, "Hey, well done. Congratulations. Let's go out and celebrate." They're always very proud of you. Get jealous of your friends, and your smallest achievements enrage them. They cannot put up with the idea that someone's business is going well. They can like your photos on Instagram, but when you meet them in person, it's easy to notice. They're jealous of you. It's literally written on their faces. Number 2, good friends know the importance of your alone time. Sometimes we all can't stand the hustle and bustle of big cities, so we need our private time. We spend this time on meditating, thinking, reading good books, or walking. Our true friends understand this and never get offended, even if we cancel weekend plans with them. Toxic friends try to occupy all your time. They're like spiders. They literally need all your time and attention. They easily get offended when you want to spend some time alone, and say no to them. Number 3, good friends are caring and empathetic. They say, your appearance, and they always know how to cheer you up. Toxic friends judge and criticize you. "Oh, where'd you get that weird hat? You look terrible." They never miss an opportunity to point out your shortcomings, even the smallest ones. They hide behind the phrase, "I just want to help you," but they don't help at all. They make you feel awkward and uncomfortable. Number 4, good friends respect you and value your friendship. You're a very important person for them, so they know how to argue without being personal. Also, if something goes wrong when you travel together, they'll just laugh at all the troubles. Toxic friends lose their tempers easily. They can even shout at you in front of other friends or in public. If something goes wrong or not according to their plan, they lose their temper very quickly and become a monster. Number 5, good friends enjoy exchanging opinions. They're interested in your opinion and always listen to you. If they disagree with you, they'll express it in the mildest form. Toxic friends only want to win an argument. They hardly reckon with your opinion because they think that only they are right, and they try to prove it by any means. Number 6, good friends believe your words. Well, of course, they won't believe you if you say you're moving to Mars next weekend, but they usually believe all your stories. When you tell them something interesting, for instance, from documentaries, they believe every word. Toxic friends doubt everything you say. They're like, better to ask you, are you sure? No matter what you say, they always want to double check. Number 7, good friends call you because they miss you. How was your day? Is everything okay? If you miss your class or work, they'll be the first to call to ask whether you're all right. They miss you and they worry about you. Toxic friends find you only when they need your help. "Hey, can you pick me up right now? Help me with my work? Friends accept you the way you are. Even if you wear all bright colors together, sing on the streets, or spend all your weekends riding a canoe, they appreciate your ways. They don't care. They love you. Toxic friends try to change and control you. They always say something like, "What's better for you is," or "You have to try this." They find it hard to reconcile themselves with your lifestyle. But let's be honest, their advice is so annoying. Number 9. Good friends know that everyone has their friends, and they won't judge you for that. They might even become good friends with your other friends if you introduce them to each other. If not, they'll still respect the fact that you like to spend time with your other friends and colleagues. Toxic friends don't like your other friends. Remember, they're like spiders. They don't want to share you with other people, and even with your family. They always want to be the center of your life. Number 10. Good friends know how to keep a secret. If you tell them, "Please don't tell anyone," they'll take it seriously. Don't worry, your secrets won't fly around the world. Toxic friends say things they shouldn't say, and they always say, your secrets as well. Just avoid their company. Gossip is not the best pastime. So, have you recognized some of your friends? Share this video with side of life.
All right, let's talk about it. He brought up some very good points. What do y'all think, ladies?
Yeah, one of the things that to talk about is distinguish between maybe somebody having a bad day and they probably just took something out on us that didn't need to be, as opposed to someone continuously doing this and even doing it on purpose. And then you have some of us that do it unknowingly, that our actions, our behaviors are hurting somebody else.
Let me ask you a question.
Do I think some people can choose?
Yeah, that some people deliberately choose to be toxic. Like they know that they don't have to be that way. I think some people are just toxic and have no knowledge of what they do. You know, I think some people really have no knowledge of what they do. They really think that they're doing stuff right. But then I think there are other people that literally go into situations, knowing that they're being toxic about the situation. What do you feel about that?
Ooh, I think sometimes we can. I think sometimes we may be aware, like I've heard people say this before, where they and they're like, "Oh, but that's just me." And even if those traits may be very harmful to themselves and to whoever else they're interacting with, you know, I think in that case, yeah, some people know and they just make it as an excuse, like, well, that's just me. I've been this way for a long time. I'm not changing. Take it or leave it, you know, that type of attitude about it. But, yeah, I do. I do think that sometimes people go in knowingly, knowing that their actions have rubbed people the wrong way, and that's to say the least about it.
You know what's funny? You know what phrase came to my mind? Like when people mess, you know, when somebody gets
right.
Like, what is it that's positive after that conversation? Like, you know what I mean? Like, when you say you done messed with the wrong one today, that's, to me, it's like, it's damn near fighting time. You know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, it's time to get it cracking. Like, you know, you with the wrong one today, nigga. I don't know why you tried it with me. Why you want to try it with me? So, you know, and it's like you want to make that statement, you thinking toxic thoughts. You want to do something stupid. You know what I mean? 9 times out of 10. Unless you're really standing up for, you know, I'm not saying that you've never made that, people that have made that comment and have not been in the right when they've made that comment, but the mind state behind that comment is a different conversation.
Hey, you know what? Yeah, it is, Russ. And the other thing that is sometimes we don't know, right? sometimes we look for the person that's the loudest in the room, like the dog that has the biggest bark. Nah. The person that's the most calculated is the silent one. Sometimes people can be toxic with their silence. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, I already know. I already tell people like the worst part of me being mad is when I'm just not saying nothing. Like when I'm not saying nothing because I'm thinking, and I'm not one of those people. I'm very honest with myself. I'm not very good with being angry with situations and having a lot of time on my hand. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And because when you have a lot of time on your hands, your mind can play tricks on you, and things can go a little further in your mindset than you initially wanted it to. What's going on, Miss Latrice? Definitely call into the show tonight if you want to talk to us. We're talking about toxic relationships, friendships, all the way across the board, toxic relationships. Yeah, so, I think sometimes we, what was I saying? I got threw off when I saw Latrice right quick. I'm sorry. That's sis right there.
That's all right. You were good. Take your time. Let's see, the last part you said, you were talking about relationships.
Yeah, you missed it too. Okay, but anyway.
You want to hurt Latrice?
Damn you, Latrice. I saw you on the live feed, and I got thrown off. But no, let's get into something real quick. I'm going to get into one more piece, and then we're going to talk a little bit more.
Okay.
I think you're going to like this one.
My conscience pleads guilty. Full of pain. So everything swearing up and down that she loves me. But sometimes I don't believe her. Emotions clouded by judgment. And now I'm hoping for the strength that maybe one day I can leave her. I think our time is up. And if she rises up, then maybe she will leave me first. With calluses on my hands and feet, I prayed until my knees hurt. But see, this house ain't a home. Something about it is wrong. There's somebody in my bed, but I feel like I sleep alone. Now how long until we realize we're accident prone? Too hurt to stay together, but can't imagine you gone. We're toxic. Or in this case, how do you turn things around once they've reached a turning point? Foolishly, I tricked myself into being happy, playing mind games and hope that I was earning points. All the while I was losing my sanity. Failing to coincide, our worlds collide. The outcome was calamity. As I suffered in silence, my noisy thoughts denied me any peace and quiet. Well, I'll be damned. I've incited a riot. A war between the heart and the mind, and this time I can't comply with. While standing strong in harm's way, my heart is filled with toxins. May I ask, whatever happened to forever? And that fairy tale ending you promised me? Don't waste your time. I don't expect you to answer that honestly. We shimmered so bright, had an ability to light up the room. Oh, how could I forget it was the glimmer in our eyes as we light up the mood. Baggy eyes for crying out wolf, being lovesick and holding grudges. We were toxic. Then one day, I said to myself, self, enough is enough. I was done being the animal, fighting for scraps or your affection. Friends insisted, but I resisted, listening to the number of reasons why we were bad for each other as we persisted. Convinced of my cause, I paused. To gather pennies for my thoughts, such a pity is what I thought. Cause in that split second, the very word broken suggests that we could fix this. Mend this broken home and rekindle the flame that once existed. Compassion, one of your many talents. What a shame you don't know what your gift is. Needless to say, I was overwhelmed by blame and guilt. My pride was in pain, an unexplained feeling of strange and filth. Not to mention the lingering feeling in my midsection. as I pace back and forth, tingling in my hands and feet. I somehow managed to muster the strength to fix my mouth to say, I've decided to part ways. As the volume in my chest increased, our hands released, as I explained my disinterest in playing games and miniature arcades. Moving on now. Furthermore, staying here would only hurt us more, as we aimlessly look for unanswered questions unworthy of searching for. But I'll admit, I was a sentimental fool. I let my love for her get in the way of my opinions, but not so long after I decided to silence the inner critic in my mind and not follow behind you like minions, even though I wanted to. You can't deny it. When you share with me your hurt, I share with you my hope. I clinged on to your every word. You held on to stay afloat. Oh, and since you like company so much, I thought this was fitting. I hope that one day you find happiness in your misery. Accidents happen. It was my mistake to begin with for confusing our mutual bond for chemistry. Quiet down now. I can hear the sound of your loneliness. It beats loud. Put down the facade. I see through your phoniness. My only wish was that it didn't have to come to this, but I was so afraid who she may run off to once she runs from this. Now just when I thought we were drawn, it dawned that sooner or later you run out of places to hide. Barricaded behind emotional walls, she raises up high. Tainted by distrust, we discuss moving forward. As she moves toward, I begin waving goodbye. As we took a moment to grieve, she stood in disbelief as she gazed at the sky. We drove each other crazy, enough to make us car sick, as we tried our best attempt to sweep it under the rug and keep it under the carpet. Always at each other's throats, always. We pointed fingers like weapons, childishly playing the blame game, going tick for tack until one of us loses affection. Would you give me a second? Here's a suggestion, I said, after indulging in a shouting match. Do you think it would be wise if we let time take its toll as you would begin counting back? The dying question was raised. Was there still hope for us in the face of heartache? I doubted that. Very seriously. As we bonded in the brain, she responded in pain, uttering, I just want to be free from you, bondage, and blame. I prayed earnestly. I said, I implore you to reconsider. She then intimated to me as she vindicated to me without any crying nor any signs of jitters. Then and there, it was indicated to me how being here was exhausting. With revulsion in her throat, she voiced her opinions while taking caution, resulting in a moment like this. Now with our relationship at a standstill, we danced around our issues, found humor in situations when anticipating a miscue, stayed truthful to the lies although we knew we were wrong for each other. But regardless of our hazardous conditions, we belonged to each other. Fought long and hard, took the nail and stayed strong for each other, only to come to notice we were in the danger zone with each other. Damn! We did everything humanly possible, and yet we remained damaged beyond repair. With our hearts on our sleeves were torn, and our feelings become too damaged to wear. Our thoughts contaminated our eyes, bloodshot red. We were an accident waiting to happen, as we were prepared to drop dead. The very definition of insanity. Repeating the same actions and expecting different results. I was the pain in her heart. She was the bane of my existence. At least, we're honest to a fault. Look at us. We're scorned. Torn between what we want and what we need. A relationship based solely on manipulation, transgressions, and greed. We failed to take heed. And because of that, we love blindly and recklessly. Somehow we made it look effortless. We were toxic.
She broke that nigga hard. Nigga, when you write a 9-minute spoken word poetry piece,
Fool, he need to let that out.
that heifer hurt him. I don't know what she did.
Yes.
I know some though. I picked up one thing. He said she liked to kick it too much. He said something about, I hope your friends, whatever, I hope you can find your friends or something. That nigga was hurt. Lord have mercy. Y'all pray for that man. Y'all pray for Tai Chi. His name is Tai Chi. Shout out to Tai Chi. But y'all, I hope he's healed from that hurt, harm, and danger that woman was putting him through. Because that nigga did 9 minutes of spoken word poetry. And he remembered every damn word of it. He didn't skip a beat. This nigga, man. That nigga said we was toxic. Y'all got to excuse me if I sound a little different. I've been sick all week long. Y'all know I got to host this show tomorrow with Big Red at the PAB banquet tomorrow. And I've been sick ever since I left the G-Dub event. Lord have mercy.
Oh.
So if y'all...
Are you drinking tea, Russ?
I've been drinking tea, Theraflu, soup, Robitussin. What's that other? Mucinex. I've been on it all, man, and it's just not starting to come out a little bit today, but what the hell? I'm feeling toxic. You can see it on my face. If y'all watching the live feed right now, y'all see my face. I'm feeling so toxic. But my ass will be in the building tomorrow. Now listen, I know you had some toxic relationships in your life. You too damn deep to not have had some toxic relationships. Please share one of your toxic relationships with me, Miss Soul Kitten. Yeah, you too damn deep, Just same when you came off with that. It's the silent ones that be ready to be manipulative and ready to kill. Yeah, you the most silent motherfucker I know. With a big mouth. So let's go. Oh
my God.
Let's go. Come on out the bag. I know you know something. Don't sit here and act like... Yeah, look, no, you heard me the first time talking about some Don't be acting like I forgot what I said that quick. I know I be forgetting sometimes. I forgot a little earlier what I was talking about. But I know exactly what the hell I'm talking about now. Let's go. I want to hear something.
Oh, my gosh, sometimes. Okay, yeah, definitely I have sometimes... For me... The biggest thing that I noticed after a while, because, we go through a period where we've been conditioned to a certain response or certain responses from people, and it doesn't always have to be good responses or good conditioning that we have going on. So if we see the same negative behavior that is going on, if we're being So with saying that, for me, it was a lot of verbal abuse that I took. A lot of, sometimes we call it now shade, and then other times it's deeper. And this is one thing that I really hope that we get through to people tonight is that toxic is not only a physical response to it in a sense where it's like a poisonous chemical, but we are emitting these poisonous chemicals through our actions and our behaviors with others when we knowingly or unknowingly are exhibiting this But for me, I took a lot of verbal abuse. There's been a point in my life when a young man has even put his hands on me. Actually, I was thrown down to the floor, and I had a Timberland boot in my throat. Okay, over asking a question.
Wait a minute, how do you do the okay behind that? You was like, okay.
Huh?
How do you throw the okay behind that? You was like, okay. I'm trying to make light of the situation. But because I had to think about it, like a Timberland boot, like that's,
A Timberland boot. Yeah.
What was the scenario that ended up in that situation, if you don't mind me asking?
Okay. Well, actually, this was on him. I got a phone call early that morning from a young lady, right? Woke me up. And basically, he was cheating, and the young woman called me to let me know that he was there on the sofa, right? And so she gave him the phone. She was like, "Do you want me to put him on the phone?" I said, "Put him on the phone." And so when she put him on the phone, I said, we're done, right? This is a wrap. And for me saying that, he came over to my house later on, and we were talking, and I asked him a question. My mouth has been slick. My tongue was slick. I knew how to get people. Is. But I asked him a question. I know I asked him this question for a reason. It was an ex of mine that I knew he didn't like. And so I said, how would you feel if such and such would have called you up the way that woman called me up and said, I found out you've been cheating on me? And this is not from you coming and being a man and saying something to me, but this is the way that I find out. And from that, he just, I think, had a blackout, knocked me to the floor, and then was standing over me and had his boot in my throat and told me if I ever mention that, bleepity beep bleep, you get the picture. So, yeah, that was my first and only time dealing with someone putting their hands on me, but what verbal abuse was, actually.
That nigga.
And then I started
crazy.
doing it myself.
I'm sorry, that nigga.
Oh, he got it. I didn't want to go too deep with that, but yeah, he got something. Just know that.
Okay, no, I'm just saying, no, that nigga was crazy. Like, like I'm listening to you. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
You described it. If it's in, let's just say, because who knows, he might be listening to the show, and his opinion might be that it was something completely different. It just, we had to go through this whole situation with Loretta. We have to give the other opening door to the conversation. Right. If this man just out of nowhere, first of all, he got caught cheating, and then in the process of him getting caught. And you made the comment that you made, which is, I can understand that being a feasible comment to make. But if that nigga just start choking you out of nowhere, he was crazy for real. And I ain't saying that just on no level like, where you just say, we throw that word people crazy around all the time, and it's not true. You know what I mean? It's just it's just a phrase. But when you snap from 0 to 100 like that, and you already in all you said was what if the person in that situation, and the thought of that in his mind made him snap like that, that nigga was crazy. That nigga needs some medication. Well, and I feel, and I wonder what type of relationship he's in currently, and how is if he's changed, because he may have changed. He may be a completely different person. So but. If his mentality is still that, I wonder, like, what the hell is going on, to the next woman that done told him, like, or what if she didn't get caught, what I'm saying, actually cheating, like, that nigga's crazy, that nigga's crazy for real. How long did it take you to get out of that relationship?
Oh my gosh, man! The thing about that is, I went through a girlfriend there for friends that were in abusive relationships, and actually stepping out there a couple of times with some women I've seen in the streets, having hands laid on them, and I approached them and said, "Hey, I'll be a witness for you." I went, so that was something that was already in me. So I kind of figured for myself, like, if I ever got in that situation, what would I do? And with that situation like that, that's all it took. I'm like, this is it. There is no more talking to me, because now you can't even have enough restraint in yourself to walk away if you feel like hitting something. I'm not saying that none of us don't reach that point of anger when we let our emotions take over us, because emotions are energy in motion. So if you haven't reached that point where you can't refrain from yourself, then you got a problem. And that means I have a problem. You put your hand on me. Somebody's going to go to the hospital. You understand what I'm saying? We're not doing that. And that's a toxic thing, to sit there and unless someone is willing to get help. But it took me, that after he did that, that was it, because the relationship for me was already over when the woman called. He came over and he couldn't deny it. So and for me at that time, I was young. That was just like a deal breaker. I was out. I'm like, done.
How old were you and how old was he at the time? How old were you and how old was he at the time?
I was 21.
And how old was he?
I was 21. The same age.
Oh, yeah, he was young and crazy.
Same age.
Yeah, he was young and crazy. Yeah, he was young and crazy. Do you think that, due to TV, television itself, film, social media, that because it seems like it's being glamorized to be on TV and just be ratchet and crazy and, unloyal and backstabbing and all, and if I'm wrong, talk to me. You know what I'm saying? But it seems as if,
No.
I'm listen, and I say that I don't want nobody out there thinking like, yo, you watch it and I'm bashing you. Hey, I watch Love and Hip Hop and I crack up every time I see Sophia headline and they trying to act like it ain't like, that's a whole new thing. Just Google Sophia headline. And that's going to be a whole thing by yourself. I promise you. I laugh at that every week on my by itself. I'll be like, yo, his headline is crazy because, like, okay, I ain't gonna even talk about it. He got a toxic hairline. That's all I'm gonna say about that. But do you think that what's happening in today's society, like we are actually programmed for toxic relationship, and we're not we're desensitized to healthy relationships?
I definitely think we are being. I think we have been conditioned even more so to be toxic ourselves and to get into toxic relationships, because all it takes is for some people that haven't healed yet. That's the major thing that goes on. If you haven't healed and you're still getting into a relationship, time to get to the core of what these issues may be. And for a lot of people, they brush it off like they don't have any. But I do think that we are being conditioned, because what has become normal could be seen as being abnormal, but we're supporting it.
Yeah. Like, and this is what's weird. It doesn't just fall in the black community. It doesn't fall it's not a male or female thing. Like, this thing goes all the way up. Even look at the election that we just had. Never before in history have we heard a person that ended up being the president of the United States, openly, just being a jerk to women, groping them, I ain't gonna even say what he said on air, even though I could. I just don't feel like repeating.
We know what he said.
Yeah, I just don't feel like repeating his ignorance. You know what I'm saying? But it seems as if the more toxic that you are, the more successful that you are. If you look at the music industry, no one talks about the music industry and says it's a beautiful thing. They talk about it being cutthroat, or the entertainment industry, period. The entertainment industry, which we spend most of our time watching on our telephones, even right now via this show, whether it's Power, Empire, reality shows, whatever it is, whether you're an old lady and you watch soap operas or you young and you watch soap operas, because at the end of the day, that's all nighttime TV is nighttime soap operas. You know what I'm saying? It is drawn out over and meant and made to look cinematic. You know what I mean? So, how do we break the cycle? If it's so widespread, how do we break the cycle of toxic relationships on a whole? Because first, you have to learn how to acknowledge toxic relationships, or whether you're in a toxic relationship or you're not in a toxic relationship. First off, the second thing you have to do is detach yourself from them. So, but how do you spread that message as a whole, especially the youth nowadays that they really growing up on this stuff? Like, we grew up in the '90s when the Real World first started, and reality shows like that first started. And people watched them, but they didn't have the buzz. They weren't as ratchet and entertaining as they are now. They were more like real people that that were rather eccentric.
It reminded you like a different world, didn't it? Sort of.
Exactly. It was like exactly it did. You had your my man that ended up being the reporter. He was a what was his name? Dwayne Wayne. So you had your people on there. So. Times have changed so much in what we just see on TV and what we see in the movies, what we listen to in music, what we wear, and what society says is okay now. How do you change that on a mass scale? Talk to me.
Oh, you said how do we change that?
On a mass scale. On a worldwide scale, on a large scale, especially to our youth. If this was a message that we were trying to get across from our generation to the parents beneath us, talking to their children, how would we get that message across on a wide basis?
Well, you know what? There's a couple of things. You know how my mind works. Actually, I think our minds work the same way when we get in that creative mode, especially about making an impact. I think that it starts with doing just what we're doing right now and talking about it, and you have to pinpoint. We have to be courageous in the way that we talk about it. We have to be honest and vulnerable to even admit, like, hey, I'm falling short here. And for some people, be courageous enough to say, I don't even know why I'm doing it, because some people don't know why. They just do it. And then other people that do know why, and then they continue to do it. But it starts with doing this and then being the change you want to see. We got to change the mindset. Just like all these ideas and images and in the scientific world, they call it stimuli that is in the environment around us on a consistent basis that we are being enticed by. We have to start there by setting another trend. And doing that starts with self. You have to start there first, then you have to get out there and spread the word. And just like doing great things in the community. So this can even start with us, Russ, and we can start having some seminars. You know what I mean? And start talking to people and just being honest and getting more people that are on the same page with doing it and really take this nationwide. But it starts with doing something just like this. Think about how many fantastic projects were started in people's basements. You know, we hear about grassroots all the time. Like, those are the best things because it starts with us. So how do we want to live? How do we want this world for our children? What things do we want to instill in them? What things do we want to change? Well, we got to be that change. And that starts with going within and being courageous there and then having those courageous conversations. Now, is it going to be pretty and neat? No, not at all. But we can do it. We just got to be accountable and stick to it and hold each other accountable. I think that's some places.
This is my question.
What do you think about that?
This is my question. And to somebody that is completely defiant and against authority, how do you? Okay, if you saw somebody on the street or in a grocery store or in a restaurant, and either they were just being completely out of pocket and there was something that you felt that you could say to that person. Because 9 times out of 10, when we see somebody ratchet or crazy, we really just be like, this ratchet motherfucker here. You know, like,
right.
That's really our, you know, the most of our first response. Like, oh, this ignorant, you know.
Right.
That's our first normal response. So how do you approach that person that you feel is completely ignorant, that you might feel is just completely ignorant and lost in the way that they're, you know, they out in the streets, or, you know, and you might look at them and say, you know, how do you approach
story maybe? You know, I don't know why whatever is going on out there, so you have to proceed with caution. You know, you can start if you feel compelled to do something, which that's always been one of my things. I'll go and put myself there. Like, I'm not going to stand by and just watch somebody get mistreated. Like, not on my watch. I don't care if I know you or not.
Okay, so
like,
if you
I
see somebody in the street,
you know?
You see somebody in the street and, you know, they getting whooped. Okay, let's flip it. If you see a woman beating the dog out of a man on the street, are you going to step in?
You said beating the who?
Beating the dog out of a man. You say you ain't gonna sit up. Very soft. He can't stand up. He won't stand up for himself. And she just out there smacking him upside the head and treating him. Because I know we've all seen that type of female before. So you seen that? You gonna stand up and defend that man? What you gonna do?
Man, look, let me tell you something.
Because
Russ.
now don't tell me nothing, because you'll do it for a woman, though.
Yeah.
You step up for you defend yourself against a man. If he's beating a woman, you wouldn't do the same thing for a man. If you saw him just getting dog walked,
yes,
and you just recognized he was a weak person.
I would, and I would do the same thing. Proceed with caution, but
how do you do it? Okay, right now somebody's getting their ass whooped out in the street. Come on, like, you don't know them anyway. So like, you talking about, it's going down at the moment. You see this going down. How do you approach that?
First of all, for me, like I said, proceed with caution. You could call the police. You could call some people in the neighborhood. Everybody knows somebody around that is like the go-to people. You understand what I'm saying? That you can rectify things in that way.
I mean, what if you in the area you don't know? You're not used to that area. You go out of town. You on a trip somewhere, and you just see somebody.
Out of town?
Yeah, anywhere. Because hell, if we talking about you're not going to see anybody get mistreated, that means no matter where you are, you're going to stand up for what's right. So you in the middle of Puerto Rico, so you don't know nobody in damn it Puerto Rico, but maybe the 2 or 3 people that you done went on cruise with, and y'all just so happen to be walking. Y'all go to a place to go buy some stuff, and you see a chick just start smacking a dude up, or you see a male start smacking a female up in the spot. You mean to tell me you just gonna walk up or you gonna?
I would go
you don't know where the
help.
police at. You don't know. This not your area. So how do
I would go get some help.
What if you the only help around?
You gotta know who's help on the cruise now.
What if you the only help around?
If I'm the only one around?
Yeah, you the only help around.
Wow. Well, call me crazy, but I pray and ask for the right direction to go ahead, because I couldn't walk by and just see that happen.
As good as that sounds, I don't believe it.
Well, I've done it, Russ. It's not just some fluff. I've done it. I'm speaking from experience. Trust me when I say this to you. I've done it, and I've been protected. And I'm not saying that's the wisest decision all the time.
Okay, I'm saying if you have no protection. I ain't talking about when you got some protection. Listen, I'm not saying that you're right or wrong. I'm just pressing the issue like I do. You know what I'm saying? I want to know the truth.
I know.
Because I think the average person, which
that's
most people
like
do,
my heart couldn't take it.
Because we got video, they got little clips you go on YouTube all day long, and you can see what people that just walk past people getting mistreated all day long, and they running a prank just to see if somebody gonna do something. They've had whole shows built around just seeing what people will do, and most people won't do nothing. You know, that's why I love that. You know, that show where they have like, you know, they might act like they have actresses, and that you in a spot and you acting like you're getting your hair done or something, and somebody in there come in with a an interracial relationship, and then they have somebody acting and just going crazy like, this is just ridiculous. They need to check that. I love to watch the reactions on the people's faces that don't say nothing. I love that part because it's like they look like, lost sheep. You know what I mean? And it's like, if you're going to say something, say something. If you feel it's wrong, you feel it's wrong. Like, I think right now too many people watch too much stuff that they know is just wrong, and they just cool with it being wrong. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, they just cool with it being wrong. And ain't nothing against that. Can't nobody make nobody do nothing. But at the end of the day, I think we got too many people that are hypocritical that will, the talk is there, but the walk is not there. I don't think a lot of people are willing to walk through fire by themselves. I think, everybody, we live in this day and time, and we listened to one of the clips early before you got on when they said that people, usually in these situations, sometimes it's people that envy you, and they sort of hate you because they see stuff in you and they want to be where you are. You doing some things that they want to do, and they hate the fact that they're not you, and I think that's very crazy. I think that's very weird. When I heard that, I thought that was like the craziest thing in the world, because I don't want to be around nobody if they're not successful. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be around. And I'm not saying that to knock people that are not successful, but I'm saying I want to at least have the drive, the thought process to want to be successful. If you don't have the money, at least think about it enough till you try to figure out a way to get some money to do it. Like, I don't understand people that have a dream and they don't put nothing towards their dream, and they be talking about, I've been dreaming about this for 20 years. Go back to sleep, because you're going to keep dreaming. Like, when is your dream going to become a reality? When are you going to, experience and get some of the benefit of what you have? And it's so many people that, they allow, like, I even know people in the streets, you know what I'm saying? Like, you see them struggle with trying to get away from the street life, but they can't get away from the excitement of the people that they know and the life. You know what I'm saying? They can't get out of it. I know some people that, like, they had no reason to be in the areas that they still in. You know what I mean? Because they didn't. I understand going back. I understand giving back to the community. I understand being like, I ain't forgot where I come from. But I don't understand you growing up in a situation where most people thrive their whole life to get out of and succeed from, just to go back or remain in that same situation for the rest of their life, or allow people to have such a hold on them that they can't let people go. Talk to me.
Right. Yeah, I think we've all been there with the fact of what we put into our minds, what we sign on to, what we listen, what we take in. And for some people, they don't know how to, because when you get inside of a person's head, you got their spirit, you got their heart. That is a very, that's the highest computer there is the human brain. So it's a conditioning. It's a conditioning of things that we think is okay. And we don't know. Some of us don't know or don't want to know. We're so used to it. And you know how it is when you've been hearing the same message over and over again. And although you may have aspirations, like you mentioned, Russ, about people dreaming, and unless you put some action behind that dream, it's not going to become a reality. You have to put out the blueprint for your dream, and then you got to take those steps to make it a reality. And for a lot of us, we find comfort in our discomfort, if that makes any sense. We find comfort in our ignorance, our comfort in not changing, because a lot of us don't want to feel that shake-up that change brings to our lives.
Exactly. And you know what? It's really sad that, we hate on each other because somebody might want to have drive, or they have drive, just straight to the point.
Yeah.
Some people hate on the fact that people have drive. Like, you hear some people say, "Oh, look at this person over here doing this, and they doing too much." No, they not doing enough. They trying to get to where they can do more. You know, you don't that you don't see nothing else. You know, it's hard for you to see success. You don't want success, so you don't see success. You're comfortable with your situations, so you expect everybody else to be just as comfortable as you are. I ain't trying to sit up and be lonely and stuff forever. Like, you know, like some people, I don't get people that just decide to stay in something that they don't see changing. Like, you know, and I ain't telling nobody to leave, nobody get up and walk out the crib or nothing like that tonight. But what I am saying is this. I don't understand when you know nothing is going to change. Like, you know, I understand giving it a shot. I understand giving it a second go round. I understand giving it a third go round. I understand fighting for your relationship. I understand fighting for your children. I understand fighting for, you know, your cause. But then there is certain times that you just got to throw in the towel. I'm sorry. there are certain times that you have to realize certain stuff just ain't working. You know what I mean? And it's okay. Like, you don't have to look down on yourself or be upset because things did not work out the way that you wanted them to work out. You know, it's a part of life. You know, it happens. You know, it really freaking happens out here where people have aspirations and you have a thought process. You want something, you go to a job, you think this job is the way out, and you get fired a couple weeks later. So, you know, you put all your stock into that, you know, but sometimes things just don't work out. You can't sit up for the rest of your life and be mad that you got fired. At some point, you got to get up off your ass and go get another job. You have to figure out another way to eat. You have to figure out another way to live. Talk to me.
Right. You know what? Wow. That's something that I think people have heard, or maybe a whispering in the wind. You know, like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do it. And they just can't bring themselves to even start. And I think that's where a lot of people are. They just can't bring themselves to do it. Either it's that, well, it's what it is for a lot of people, and that's our ego. Our ego gets in the way, you know, of us admitting to ourselves, like, look, I'm not perfect. And that's all right, because we are striving for perfection. Okay. You know, but
No. We ain't talking about the person that's striving for perfection right now. We talking about the person that just has no gusto about themselves. They don't do nothing. They expect the world to fall into their lap. Oh my God.
Yeah, they've given up.
Yeah, you know, they've
given up.
They got more excuses than they have ways to think about getting out of stuff. It's always somebody else's fault. Somebody else did this to you, and you know, fine. It's
the victim stage.
Yeah, I've been trying not to cuss all day, but I see it's coming. We've been, we all been shitted on at some point.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, even now, I'm at the point where I just can't have grudges right now. I refuse to allow somebody to have that much influence over my life that it becomes something that I just cannot, I can't stop thinking about it, or I'm angry all the time because I'm thinking about this person, or I don't want to go to this place because I don't want to see this person. Like, I don't get stuff like that. And sometimes people allow stuff to get so toxic with them. Okay, this is another thing about toxic relationships. Some people allow anger and beef to be so much in their life that no matter what they do, no matter who they run into, they always finding problems. I know y'all know some people like that.
Yes.
If you put 100 people in the room and ask them about this person, about 70 of them gonna be like, this person is just the ass. They done rubbed me the wrong way. And what's so crazy is when people actually not realize how jacked up that you are at that point. Because when you get to the point where I understand having, sometimes you just don't get stuff, but when you get to the point where you just don't have any sense of reality whatsoever, it's always somebody else's fault.
Right.
I like them parents that they kids don't ever do nothing wrong, but you sitting there watching their kid eat damn food every damn day, and they see it too.
And their kid could be lighting the house on fire. Yeah.
Yeah, and they be like, oh, no, he ain't did that. Yes, that's that little nigga did. That little nigga did that.
Right.
And you know he did it, because he did it before.
Right.
You know what I mean? He did this before. Like, I don't get... Okay, oh my God. Listen, and I don't want to come off like I'm some person that has never been in life and has never been in a situation where I have been jacked up and been in a toxic relationship. I have been in several. I have known some this year. Trust me. I don't think that you go through life with as many toxic people as there are out there without running into them, because 9 times out of 10 you don't realize people are toxic until you get too close to them. You don't realize people not good for you until you be like, oh, they really not good for me. Like you find out the wrong way. You find out as old folks used to say, you're gonna find out the hard way. You're gonna find out one way or the other.
Right.
And I think that, like, even myself, I have a great tendency to be able to peep other people and how toxic they can be to, like, people that are close to me, and necessarily see them within myself. You know what I mean? Like, I give people like, I see it, but I'd be like, nah, they wouldn't do that to me. And I think that's a naive standpoint that I need to work on personally. This is the Rush Danja fix himself moment. But you people are not toxic to you unless you allow them to be toxic. They got to get close to you. Even in the workplace, even people that you don't like, they become toxic, and you don't like them because they've gotten to you that much.
That's right.
You're that angry. You're that pissed off. It's just facts. You know what I'm saying? So we only got a few more minutes. I'm gonna close down around 6:50 because I got another show at 7:00. So talk to me. I want you to round it up a little bit, and then I'm gonna play the last clip of the night. Matter of fact, let me play the last clip, and then I'll let you go ahead and close us out for the night. Is that cool?
Okay, that's cool with me.
All right, let's get it.
Why are modern relationships so fragile? Every single day, people all around the world get divorced or visit a psychologist to recover after a hard breakup.
I like 'em fiery.
Oh my goodness. What? Goodbye.
Nowadays, a family as a social institution is going through a hard time in all developed countries. Why is it like this? Why is it so difficult to keep a relationship strong and healthy? Why do we fail at love so often, despite trying so hard? Let's look at 11 important reasons. 1. We're not prepared.
Will you marry me?
Yes.
Often, we're not ready to compromise, sacrifice ourselves, and love unconditionally. We don't want to wait. We want to have everything at once. We don't let our feelings grow, too often putting a time limit on what we think we should be feeling and when. When some troubles or changes occur, we don't want to compromise with our beloveds and spend time on restoring relationships. We simply give up and start looking for an easier option.
Don't touch me! I hate you! I hate you!
2. We confuse love with other feelings.
I'm flying!
We too often want to meet someone who will join us in the cinema or a nightclub, not the one who can understand and support us in a moment of deep sorrow. No one wants to have a boring life. That's why we're looking for a cheerful companion who can turn our lives into an adventure. But we're not always ready for change, which inevitably comes after a certain period of romantic and mutual affection. Next time, choose a person who tries to listen to you, rather than one who is just good company for having fun. 3. We get stuck in a rut.
I made a mistake, okay?
A mistake? What were you trying to put it in?
After a while, we don't have time for love because we're too busy chasing material benefits. work, study, shopping, new cars, new phones, we don't have space for love. We are too busy with our daily routine and careers, so we don't have time for developing relationships. As a result, our relationships wither without our attention, just like flowers wither without water. 4. We're waiting for an immediate result. When we fall in love, we want our relationships to be mature. This maturity, as well as mutual understanding, can only come after years spent together.
You look wonderful.
Most people today think that there's nothing in this life that's worth their time and patience, even love. It seems we've forgotten that the best thing takes time. 5. We prefer to waste our strength. Many of us would likely prefer to spend an hour with 100 different people than a day with one person. Nowadays, people believe that it's much better to meet new people rather than getting to know them better.
Carrie, I'm sorry.
I am humiliated.
I'm sorry.
We're greedy, and we want everything all at once. And then soon our relationships to be better experience of us to a person. But we want him or her to be perfect. We date lots of people, but hardly give a chance to anyone.
I'm supposed to be beautiful.
But you are beautiful.
6. We're dependent on technology. Let's admit that technology has brought us closer. We check our accounts on Instagram and Facebook every 5 minutes and are always in touch with the whole world. We're so close that it sometimes feels difficult to breathe. Texts, voice messages, chats, and video calls have replaced face-to-face communication. We don't have to spend time together anymore. We already know a lot about each other from social media. We have nothing to talk about. 7. We can't stay in one place for long. We think that we're not meant for relationships, and even the idea of settling down scares us. We're a generation of nomads who are always ready to go somewhere far away from home, routine life, and stable relations. We don't dedicate our lives to one person anymore, and we avoid anything permanent. We actually despise permanence. We are always in pursuit of something better and new, and we don't even notice that we already have everything we need. 8. We become sexually liberated. Our generation has divided sex from love. First, people have sex, and then they decide whether they want to be together. Today, sex outside of marriage is normal, and things like open relationships, friends with benefits, and one-night stands have become part of modern life. Sex without a relationship is a norm these days. 9. We rely on logic way too often.
More than I've ever loved any woman. And I've waited longer for you than I've ever waited for any woman.
Few people from younger generations can love with all the heart and overcome difficulties connected with time and distance. We prefer everything that is practical and profitable, including relationships. We are too sensible and careful. Our generation doesn't do crazy things for love anymore. We weigh every single step and prefer listening to our brains rather than our hearts.
What about you?
I'm fine.
How's married life?
10. We're afraid of too many things. We're afraid of new relationships, disappointments, emotional wounds, and broken hearts. And that's why we don't let people into our lives. We're always guarded. We're scared to get hurt or to get our hearts broken. We try hard not to fall in love. We don't let anyone enter our hearts and rarely show our real feelings and emotions. We build walls around ourselves, and sometimes they're too thick and high to let us step out and see life as it really is. 11. We don't appreciate relationships enough to let the person who loves us go. We're too disappointed in the people who surround us. We've forgotten how to fight for love. So we often step aside silently when we're facing even the smallest troubles with our relationships. We don't appreciate people around us and don't want to make any efforts to keep them close to us. We are too lazy and too busy to make the first step. Do you agree with these points? Have you gone through a hard breakup recently? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to share this video, hit the like button, and click subscribe to stay on the bright side of life.
Miss Soul Kitten, please share your thoughts on the post right there.
Yes, I think there was some very good points that she made, and it was one constant word that she used a lot, which was fear. And it's an acronym that I heard for years about fear: false evidence appearing real. And the more we concentrate on that, the more we're going to be stuck in our lives. We're not going to want to move anywhere, do anything. So we got to pay attention to those signs. We got to pay up some really good points earlier, and that was no one can do anything to you unless you allow them to. You got to start there. It's more about you than it is about the other person.
Yeah, well, I want to thank you for calling in tonight. As always, you with us every Thursday night. Also with us, let them know where else they can find you and what other times they can find you on the Rush Radio Network, my love.
Say that one more time, Russ.
I said let them know what other times they can find you on the Rush Radio Network, my love.
Oh, okay. That would be Wednesday evenings at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Rush Radio, the Late Night Touch.
Tell them what can they expect on the Late Night Touch.
Oh, man, you can expect anything. See, I think this is a major misconception people have. They hear the name and they think it's just all sensual all the time. No. Touching is about going deep inside the soul, so you can find anything from holistic healing to what some people consider great interviews. It's just like a big jumbo of things, but it's all
Well, I got some good news for you.
What?
I got your headsets.
What?
Yeah, so I'll be I just gotta give me some money and send you the headsets so that you can go ahead and start live streaming and letting everybody see that.
We're live streaming?
Yeah, so everybody can see that. Tonight, all my battle rap fans, get ready. Y'all know we're about to turn up in about 10 minutes. We got the craziest dude on our new page. It's not a new page. We just changed the name of it. It is called Battle Rap TV, Behind the Bar / Blunt Radio. Blunt Rap Radio. So y'all tune in. See my man Nigel just kicked in and tuned in with us, man. Make sure that y'all tune in just a few minutes, 10 minutes away from Behind the Bar with myself. Resse be here in a few days. And then we have Pyrex and Panic, and we're going to talk about Panic and Moan's last battle that they had just for a second. Smoke and Mirrors, I appreciate everybody for tuning in today. My very special co-host, the beautiful soul Kitten Richardson. Can I get a kitty call on the way out, my love?
You absolutely can, darling. Meow.
You already know what it is. It's your man, Rush Danja. I appreciate each and every one that tuned in today. We'll see you next week right here on Smoke and Mirrors.
Good night.